before we get into the show, I just wanted to remind you about a sponsor of Fresh is the Word, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, beeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. In the world of wrestling where there are hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all their tees in-house. So if you'd like to discuss possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or whatever else, just drop them a line at 20by20apparel.com. That's 20x20apparel.com. And also look out for their limited edition enamel pins, and you might see them set up a gimmick table at a wrestling event near you. So once again, go to 20by20apparel.com. That's 20x20apparel.com.
Fresh is the word.
I'm Jim Duggan, got long wood for plenty hoes. I keep it fresher than fresh, but you already know. You suckers bummy, I'm money, I got a ton of flows. My weed loud like a motherfucking thunder roll. Your shit quiet like you ballin' on a budget though. We see your kicks and we laugh and yellin' what are those. You see me shining like a suit on puffy. You know my grindin' shit is too strong, buddy. That's why the dude call money. I be stuntin' like it's nothing at all. Cause it's nothing to me, it's probably something to y'all. Trying to smoke like me, then come and fuck with your dog. Got a closet full of kicks, you can't cop it tomorrow. And I'm fresher than the freshest, you can tell it's in my essence. Bitch, you see the way I'm rapping, yes I do this shit to death. Until I'm running out of breath, or tell somebody cut a check. But either way you know it's fresh, and either way you know it's fresh. Fresh, we fresh. Fresh, 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 goddammit, we fresh. Fresh, fresh, goddammit, we so damn fresh.
Hey everybody, this is Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, and you're now listening to Fresh is the Word, and this is episode 174. And our guest for this episode is comic book writer and content creator Pat Shand. He is the co-creator and writer of titles such as Destiny New York, Snap Flash Hustle, Afterglow, Spooky Girls, Prison Witch, Gangster Ass Barista, and a whole lot more. And we talk a lot about that during our interview. Most importantly, right now, Pat Shand is at the end of his current Kickstarter campaign for Destiny New York short stories. This is the newest part of the Destiny New York series. He already did successful Kickstarter campaigns for the first 3 volumes of Destiny New York. And with this one, for the short stories, you know, they're all just like a collection of, you guessed it, short stories that take a deeper look into all the characters that are a part of the series. But then along with the short story book, Pat Shand is also offering a paperback reprint of Destiny New York Volume 1 with new variant covers. And during our interview, we talked about the creation of the Destiny New York series, and along with making the comic Prison Witch with his wife, the important aspect of collaboration, his childhood and how he got into comics, how he broke into the comic industry, his current comic book Snap Flash Hustle with previous Fresh is the Word guest Emily Pearson, and we also, talk about many of his other works. And we get into a big discussion about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with Pat Shand. I've been following you for quite some time, and a lot of your titles that you've created have been super interesting. I have been following along with Snap Flash Hustle, which has been really good. And I did purchase Afterglow from Caitlin, like back on Free Comic Book Day, and that was really good. I was like, yo, there's a cat in here, so I'm definitely gonna read it. So, and right now you're in the home stretch of your Kickstarter for the Destiny New York short stories. I just you sent me the previous Destiny books, and I got through part of the first one and like really love it. Let's talk about the Kickstarter right now. What's this for? What's the short stories about? Let's cover that.
Yeah, with Destiny New York,
the idea of that story is magic is a real and regular part of everyday life, you know. But the story doesn't focus on that. You know, I wanted to create a fantasy world that has the same focus as a real life story would. Like, take for example this, right? In our world, we have technology, we have computers, we have cars, but in our stories, those don't dominate the narrative. Whereas in fantasy, say Harry Potter, for example, in that world, everything is about magic. So I want to paint a world where magic is real, but not a really overwhelming part of life, where it's in the story, but not the actual point of the narrative. So in the main series, which is we have 3 volumes now, it focuses on a character named Logan, who used to be a prophecy girl. You know, she completed her destiny when she was 13, and her girlfriend, who is the last member of a mystical crime family. So that their romance is pretty much the main focus of the series. But as we went along, we introduced a bunch of new characters and sort of expanded our supporting cast to major roles. So I wanted to kind of break from that main narrative and do a book that was able to focus on just, you know, the daily lives of these characters. You know, have a story that doesn't have the leads in that story. You know, have a comedy story, have a little slice of life story, have experimental stories, just be able to tell a bunch of sort of one-offs in this universe.
Right, yeah. I love the way it goes. Like, there's all these little things that are all tying together. It's not just like focused in one thing, you know. I just gotta say, man, Lilith is hot.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, you know, I did. It's kind of funny. I designed her before I met my wife with the artist Manuel Pertano, who started out with the series. But I ended up meeting someone and marrying someone who looks much like her. So hey, you know, thank you.
You willed it into your life or something. You manifested it into your life.
I guess so, you know.
I love seeing your online shenanigans with your wife. You guys seem like such a fun couple.
Oh, thanks. You know, for a while I was kind of getting depressed by social media, and everyone is so fucking serious. You know, like social media, it's become this just depressing echo chamber of just how everyone tweets how bad everything is. You know, so I was doing that too for a while, and then I realized, you know what? None of us are making anything better, so I'm just going to have fun on this platform, because if I can't have fun here, I don't want to be doing this, because, you know, we have to be on Twitter for our careers. We have to, you know, just be present. So if, say, someone who's thinking about hiring me sees that I'm not active on Twitter, they're going to equate that to, homie doesn't promote his stuff, you know? So I'm going to sort of switch gears there and just start to be me on Twitter and Facebook again, you know, and just use it the way I would if I wasn't really a comics creator. So I just started to have fun, and yeah, man, I mean, I'm glad that you like it. You know, sometimes I wonder, like, what people who are just in the comics industry who don't know me think of what I'm doing.
Whatever.
But yeah, no. I'm glad it's working, though.
It looks like a few people got big mad at you the other day when you posted that picture of your wife flashing her boobs.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was just that one guy, you know. I think that some people just, I don't know about him, you know. That was kind of weird, because
right.
in the picture, she's obviously posing, and the point of the picture was the joke that she looks like Jeffrey Dahmer in the picture because of her glasses.
Right.
So we censored her boobs with little pictures of Dahmer's face. And I would think if someone was to get offended, they would get offended because it's a serial killer joke. But no, this guy got offended because he was trying to, quote unquote, protect my wife's privacy. And it's like, she's posing, bitch. like she knew this was happening, you know, like this was our idea, you know?
Dude, sometimes you just get things that are mad, like people get mad about things that you can't even like think of if like Like if you try to like write a story and figure out, some, dialogue people would get mad about, there's someone will always come and top it, with something that you would never even think about in your dreams.
Oh, dude, that's exactly right. Probably the strangest example of that was recently. I got my first bit of hate mail in a long while. It was this rant about how I'm a soy boy because of how I wrote this comic Stitch for Avatar. It opened apparently with this woman saying how much she hates men, and I was reading this hate mail and I was like, dude, no, it didn't, But then I realized it opens with this woman talking about hating the Taliban. So I was like, man, this guy is so entrenched in his politics that he doesn't realize that this scene isn't about men in general, but is about someone talking about the fucking Taliban. It's like, wow. It just, yeah, you never know what people are gonna kind of, I guess respond to or just get heated by,
Right. I know. You also have a lot of other titles that you've released and worked on in recent time. I started reading also the Prison Witch.
Yeah.
That one, that was really good. Talk a little bit about the story behind making that.
Yeah, that's one that I created with my wife Amy. She had the idea, and it came to us kind of simply at first. She we just talking about possible comics ideas, and she had 3 at the time, and one of them she just said Witches in Prison, and I was like, yo, let's do that one first. But we kind of instead let it percolate for a while, and we did Clonsters, our all ages book first, and slowly what we did was we just built on the concept, and we decided who was going to focus on and what the theme was going to be, and really Prison Witch, it's in the title, it's about witches in prison, but at its core it's about anger, and when you realize that the worst parts of you are also part of the overall you can't really say I was acting out, that wasn't me, because it was you, and it's about accepting that. And the way that we did it was we just kind of we each came up with a few characters that we wanted to write, and we just put them into this group, and we write it in a very sort of conversational way where Amy will come to me with some ideas, and then I'll ask her questions based on those ideas, and then she'll go off and write some outlines, and then I'll respond to the outlines by adding dialogue here and there. And the way it's done is very conversational. And we're in the middle of volume 2 right now, which is going to be on Kickstarter in about a month and a half from now.
Nice. Yeah, I still have to finish it, but yeah, I really enjoyed what I read thus far. How is it like working on things with your wife? What does that sort of personally bring to the table for you in regards to brainstorming, creativity, whatever else?
It's kind of hard to say, because she and I, our process is, it's just we talk it out. But what I will say is that she is very idea centric in that she comes with a big idea that will then break down, and she, how can I put this? She doesn't co-write in the way that she'll write a full scene and then I'll write the next scene. It's more collaborative than I have before, where we'll each write a piece of the page, and it's kind of hard to describe because I haven't done it before. But we'll write everything together, and it's not even a matter of always sitting together. It's like I'll even text her some stuff, and she'll text me back, where I'll have to go back in our text chain and just pull little bits that I had ideas for here and there. It's just it's sort of more like playwriting it's like a living sort of creature, you know. And it does make me wish, and this is what kind of paused me before. It makes me wish that we were able to write much further ahead, because the way that we do it, I would like to like write a full 5-volume Prison Witch series before we even really put it out there, so we get the full structure and we're able to just write it at whatever pace we like, and say write volume 4 if we're feeling it now. Because the way that we do it is so it's just so out of order and so piecemeal that I just love being in that mode, you know. But I don't have time for that, and I do want to get the book out. So we're doing probably about every year and a half we're doing a new volume of Prison Witch. But yeah, no, it's such a weird method, you know, because I'm also co-writing with Vita Ayala right now, and we are doing the scene by scene thing. But since I've sort of had fun writing with Amy in this way, when Vita gives their pages in, I am now sort of keyed into that idea that I also want to do this the same way with Vita too.
Yeah.
In a way, in that I'm also enriching Vita's pages, and that I am sort of letting it become its own thing slowly, you know, rather than like forcing the collaboration and forcing two different voices to become one. I like the way that this sort of helps the melding of voices.
Right. What do you think is the most important aspect of collaboration?
I'd say making sure that both voices are present and are part of the creation, because sometimes you know, I feel that in writing, powerful voices can overwhelm, and that sometimes a powerful voice isn't always what a reader wants. And by powerful voice, I mean a specific voice. Like, say, imagine if Quentin Tarantino co-wrote with anyone, it would sound like a Quentin Tarantino piece. I like to, when I'm co-writing, I always second guess my phrasing more than I would when I'm writing my stuff, because I want it to not mimic my co-writer style, but blend in a way that no one ever goes, oh, this was a Pat scene. I want people to think in Prison Witch and Clonsters, oh, this whole thing is a Pat and Amy work. And in the book I'm working on with Vita next year, Cherry, it's called Cherry Gilbert Necromancer. I want every scene to feel like, oh, I can feel Pat and Vita in this, rather than just trying to pick apart, because that really does, I feel, and I do that as a reader, but it does pull one out of the experience, you know?
You know, kind of go back a little bit, you know, what kind of a kid were you? You know, how did you first get into comic books and doing things creative?
You know, I was a dork, but
oh, really?
I did read comics. You know, I read Goosebumps books. I was looking back, I didn't realize that I was like a geek or a nerd until I was like 19 years old. But I wore sweatpants until I was like in 5th grade. I didn't even wear jeans, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I just wore those soft hitters, you know. But I would read Goosebumps books. I was just a big reader all the time. I did have this box of comics that I would go to sometimes. You know, my favorite from that was Creepshow, because I was big into horror as a kid. I'm probably bigger into horror as a kid than I am now.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like genre does overwhelm comics, so I don't really gravitate toward a specific genre. I just do want to find the stories where that just feel unique beyond genre. But yeah, I only started to really get into comics in my 20s. I'm a big Buffy and Angel fan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
When
those are my favorite. That's my favorite TV shows of all time.
Oh, me too. Those two. And also 6 Feet Under for me too. Okay. But yeah, so Joss Whedon announced through this magazine that he was continuing Buffy through a comic, And my first thought was, I wish it was a novel, which is kind of crazy looking back, because when I saw how well it worked in comics, I began to reach outside of the Buffy and the Angel comics, and I found Brian K. Vaughan, I found Alan Moore, and I just began to discover these amazing works, and that, I was already writing in theater. I was hoping to break into the television industry, and then I just saw this brand new form of writing. I mean, brand new to me.
Yeah.
That I didn't know could be so powerful, and it really swept me up.
What did you do to break into comics?
I actually specifically focused on Buffy and Angel. Before I was really pushing comics as my career, I began to, I was just writing everything. I was writing my own stories, and I began to write reviews of everything I read and saw. So I had this blog. It was called TV That Doesn't Suck, and as I was doing that, just reviewing everything I watched. I was also doing this blog, Buffyverse Comic Reviews, where I would review every Buffy and Angel comic that I read. And through that, I started to talk to the editors and writers at IDW who were doing the Angel books. And I became friends with a few of them. And one time I saw Stephen Mooney, who is the artist now, I believe, on Black Widow, but before he was doing his own book, Half Past Danger. He has a lot of great work. He posted this thing about how he wants to do a story about Wesley and Fred set in season 5, sort of when Illyria has her shifts back and forth between looking the way that she does, yes, and taking on the Fred persona. So that's my favorite part of the series too. So I that night I wrote an outline and a 3-issue series, and I just marathoned it, and in the morning sent it off to him. And I remember he said to me, he replied in hours and said, Pat, not going to lie, this is good. And he tried to get it published, and it didn't go through, but it did open the door for me there.
Yeah.
And when the series was going to, the rights were passing off to Dark Horse, the editors there, Chris Ryall, gave me a shot to pitch a story in their final collection, Angel Yearbook. And I got a little 2-pager in there. And from there, I just used that as a stepping stone,
Well, how did you feel getting just that 2-pager?
It was a dream come true.
I bet, man. Oh, dude, I love Buffy and Angel so much. Have you read the new comics where it's like the original story but kind of tweaked for today?
I read the first one, but I will admit that it's good. It's well written and it's well drawn, but here's the truth. What makes those characters special personally to me is their journeys and what they went through. I want comics that will put them in the comic in context of that, whether earlier in their journey or after their journey. I want that character, the one who's going to experience the things that are on the show. So while I appreciate what they're doing and I think it's cool, it's not exactly for me,
Speaking of the all the Buffy and related comics that came after the actual TV show, yeah. I've been really hardcore into comics only for the past 2 years now, and I would always see the Buffy comics and I would see a ton. There would be all these different crossovers and Spike and Buffy and Angel and everything. It seemed like there was a lot. If I wanted to go back and start the journey of the Buffy comics after the TV show, how do I start?
It's season 8. It's the comics are broken down by season, and it started out pretty simply in that the only comic going on was Buffy season 8, yep. And that lasted for 8 volumes, 40 issues, and it was at two different companies. That was Dark Horse, and IDW was doing Angel, and they had Angel After the Fall, which picks up from where that series ends. But Buffy, just look out for the season marker. Buffy.
Yes.
After season 8 is when Angel came over to Dark Horse. So they had the season 9 banner had a Buffy book, which went for I believe about 5 or 6 volumes. Angel and Faith, which was a tie-in, which went for as many volumes, and also a few spin-offs like Spike and Willow. But that was all under the season 9 banner. So your best bet there, if you're navigating the Buffy comics set in the actual Buffy universe, is just check out for that season banner. They have seasons 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Okay, so it went through 11?
Yeah, the last one, calling it season 11 is kind of crazy because it was like 4 issues long. But hey,
Nice. Yeah, I always wanted to kind of go back to it, but yeah, like when I was kind of looking at it when I first kind of came into comics, and it seemed a little overwhelming seeing everything.
Oh wait, actually I'm wrong. That's season 12. That's the 4 issues.
Okay.
Season 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12 is the 4 issue finale.
Okay, all right, good. I'm gonna go look out for some online or whatever, and I kind of want to pick it off, see where everything goes in the comic book universe for the Buffy universe.
Yeah, it's really interesting. At first, they were figuring out it wasn't all even. Oh, that's my cat Hoyt. He's screaming for breakfast.
All good.
But the writer Christos Gage came on the Angel book first, and he's incredible. And then he really brought his talents to Buffy and helped focus that title very, very nicely.
Right. Well, looking back, what were some of your favorite episodes or storylines in Buffy and Angel?
Let's see. I mean, the moment where I realized that I was watching something great is the Angelus arc in Buffy season 2. It's
yes.
It's just daring. It really it took the series to the next level and just made it into this beautiful piece of art. I mean, I remember every choice down to the music, the way it was shot, and it's kind of crazy looking back that just because the quality of the image isn't as good, people don't remember how beautiful that show was shot.
Oh yeah.
And people talk about how Joss Whedon isn't a great director because he was raised in TV, but I feel that Joss did more with TV than most directors will ever do with film. So I would say the Angelus arc in season 2 of Buffy, the Glory arc in season 5 is also right up there, and the entire second half of the final season of Angel is probably my absolute favorite.
Oh, that was incredible, man. That was incredible. Yeah, the ending. Oh my goodness. Man, remember the episode of Buffy when her mother died, and there was the whole episode, the funeral and everything, and how there was barely any dialogue for that episode, but just sort of the silence and the look on everybody's face told the whole story. It was very haunting.
So good. I mean, that scene, there's this one long shot that follows Buffy as she sees her mother, and then she makes the call to the ambulance, and just the way the whole thing was done. I mean, it was just very, very daring. And that, I think, actually, my most controversial post recently probably is I posted that I miss 22 episode sprawling seasons of TV.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And yeah, people were arguing, and I'm not sure if their point was, no, you don't, because how else do you argue that I missed that, but yeah, man, I missed that because they could do episodes like that broke from structure. Because now I feel that I mean, we are in a golden era of TV, but I do want showrunners to realize that you don't need to have every episode only be part of an arc. it can stand alone somewhat too, you know. And we have to retrain audiences for that too, because with Stranger Things, when they had that episode in season 2 that focused on 11 and broke from the main arc, people didn't know what to do with that.
Right.
In the past, that used to be very common, you know, and it was great.
Right. And of course, another favorite of mine is the musical episode, Once More with Feeling.
Oh, that's probably the best one of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought the vinyl for that. I was super psyched that it was on vinyl. I was like, oh yes.
Hell yeah.
And the moment, like in that episode when Buffy reveals that she was in heaven, like I remember even the first time seeing that episode being like having a gasp.
Yep.
And everybody's look on their face when everybody thought she was in some sort of demon hell or whatever, but she was like happy in heaven.
Absolutely. And yeah, the way that episode I feel like some writers might make that episode stand 100% alone, but that episode tied into the arc beautifully.
Oh.
And just it is this singular piece of work, but it also pushed pieces of the story forward, and that's what I'm talking about. Stories that can do that can break from format, but not lose the focus and the sight of the vision. You know?
Right. Let's talk about some of your other works. I've been following Snap Flash Hustle. What was sort of the idea behind it? Sort of where you came up with the idea?
I don't even know. You know, that one came to me fully formed. I I just had the idea of Instagram models operating a secret drug business and hiding it in plain sight by communicating with hashtags. And Emily is the one who reached out to me, wanted to collaborate, which I was kind of amazed by because I was thinking of doing the same thing. So
yeah, I had her on the podcast previously.
Oh yeah, Emily's the one who mentioned me, right? To suggested me.
Yeah, I believe so.
And I'm not sure how many ideas I showed Emily, but I remember that being the one that she gravitated toward. And you know, it was just it was not one that I thought too much about, you know. It was just an idea that I had that came to me really, really fully formed, you know. So at that point, it was just about populating the story with characters, and we did that kind of backwards, you know. Often a writer will send an artist character breakdowns and ideas, but instead for this, since I had the overall structure of the idea, I just I built the characters and who they were based off of who Emily drew. She drew them first. She sent me these designs, and I was like, all right, cool. This character is going to be the lead, and she does this, and that. And we built it that way where instead of just me telling her what to draw, she drew, and we created it from there.
Her work really kind of fit with the sort of tone that you were going for. It's like a lot of like pretty colors, but at the same time, like these are people like dealing drugs and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a book. I think nothing looks like that book on shelves. I think that she
yeah, it sticks out.
Yeah, she's gonna have an amazing career ahead of her too, because I mean, for that to be her second creator-owned book ever, and she drew it, she colored it, and I mean, to me, the month that book comes out, nothing looks better. She just really, really killed it.
Yeah, her style is very unique, and she was able to, you know, really kind of, you know, fit some creative coloring into her, you know, her drawing, and it was definitely when you guys were first sort of soliciting that comic, I was like, okay, I don't know what that comic's about. It has a cool name and it looks good. I'm gonna at least check it out. And you know, it was a good book though.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Outside of the things that we talked about, you know, Destiny, Prison Witch, Snap Flash Hustle, you've had some other books that you've also created. I did read the Afterglow book, and I did really enjoy that. Kaylin Smith is such a good artist.
Oh, hell yeah.
And yeah, she was telling me, she's like, when you pitched her, he's like, "Do you want to do this thing that has a cat?" And she was like, "Yes." And kind of talk about Afterglow a little bit.
Yeah, Afterglow. It's a post-apocalyptic book about the world has been sort of overtaken by this toxic radioactive glowing color. And it's 100 years after this event that wiped out most of the Earth's population and changed the planet. And we pick up 100 years later, where the world is rebuilding itself, and we focus on this girl Lacey and her giant radioactive cat After. And it is a young adult book that I actually my initial goal as a writer was to become a young adult novelist. So I think that when I say young adult, it scares some people off because they think it's not going to be a sophisticated story.
It'll be like some teeny bopper shit.
Exactly. But the truth is that I think a lot of people in comics don't realize yet is that young adult doesn't mean it's written young. It means the protagonist is a teenager, and that's it. That is the genre.
And know what? With young adult, I like reading young adults because because it kind of cleanses my palate after reading something super heavy.
Yeah, I mean, but I would add too, young adult can be super heavy.
Yes, it can.
And I think that we do touch on some dark things in Afterglow, but
and I think also with young adult stuff, like especially when you're like an older, when you're past the young adult phase, it like kind of makes you think back to when you were younger and how you relate to that book or that story, and see if you've gotten past certain things that are like being talked about in those books. So that's why I really like sort of reading young adult books, because it kind of lets me sort of go back to when I was younger and am I over something that was really bothering me, or something that happened to me when I was a teenager or early 20s, So I think it's a nice reflective sort of genre of book.
Yeah, I mean, if Catcher in the Rye came out today, it would be in the YA section. But beyond genre with Afterglow, the idea was to create a world where the post-apocalyptic terrain and landscape wasn't just brown and gray. Like in every genre, in every example of that genre I can think of, all of the world is this washed out gray and brown landscape, right? Like when the world ends, the color ends. So I thought, what about a colorful, beautiful apocalypse? And from there,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I haven't seen anything like that before, and it gave me the chance. I just pulled from the base idea and created the creatures from there, and I wanted to do that because I don't often publish work in color through my company, Space Between, because it's more affordable to publish black and white, and our budgets are all dictated by what we make on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But with this, we did initially hire Kaylin Smith to draw it in black and white, and then I just started thinking about it, and I was like, her colors are just too good. We're going to one, have her do it in color, and two, make the book more about the color of this world,
Yeah, she's really good with the coloring of all her stuff, man. Like, she's just so beautiful at anything that she does.
I agree, yeah. I mean, I couldn't forgive myself if I had that book and didn't let her flex her color muscle, I mean, she... Plume is one of my favorite books, period.
Oh, it's so good, and I love the story, and I love the look of it, the art, the coloring. The coloring is so vivid that you can't stop looking at it.
Definitely.
Let's talk about another book of yours, and I still I can't wait till I can read it, because it just the name alone is amazing. Gangster Ass Barista. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
I need to read this book because it looks just amazing. Like, what's this about? What's the story behind it?
Gangster Ass Barista is a spin-off of Destiny New York that takes the character Trinity, who she used to be a gangster and now she works at a coffee shop and she's trying to make rent that way. And the idea there was just to have this crime book where I could sort of vent my frustrations, having been a former barista myself, and just to do an actual crime comedy book. And when I had the title, I just realized that I couldn't not do it. So yeah, it's just it is in the world of Destiny New York, but it very much does stand alone, where it could be its own movie or TV show independent of Destiny New York, and no one going to it would wonder what's going on. But if you're a fan of Destiny New York, you can go into the comic and find some Easter eggs there. So it's for readers who love that, and also readers who haven't read that book and are looking for a unique and funny comic.
Right. Let's talk about Clonsters.
Yeah, Clonsters. That started. My wife Amy is a sculptor, and she creates these little creatures, Clonsters. They're monsters made from clay, and she has built this world with these creatures, and she would tell stories about, like, say, she would say, this character is an earth nugget. She came from the ground, and this is her pet Splat. And these Splats are the cats of this world. There are sea nuggets who live in the sea. Space nuggets come from the stars above. And she has these toys that she sells online and at conventions sometimes. And when we were figuring out what direction to take our company, Clonsters was one of the ones early on that I pushed to do a comic book version of, because I felt that the story of her toys was already very detailed and had really cool and interesting characters. And it's been, at conventions, it's our biggest seller, which is kind of funny because on Kickstarter, our all ages stuff kind of struggles, because I realize, people in comics who are buying things on Kickstarter, right? Those are the adults who are going on Kickstarter.com and buying books, whereas kids, if they see something they like at a convention, they'll point and want that,
Right.
So we've had this sort of divide in our audience, where our convention audience and our online audience are very different, and Clonsters is sort of helping us navigate that by finding success in different ways.
Right. Yeah, it has a beautiful. Those books have a beautiful cover, so it definitely looks like something kids would gravitate towards.
Oh yeah, it's one of those books where I picture since the cover is bright and has these cool monster characters on it, I picture it as something that a kid will grab up at a convention, but that when their parent reads a few pages, they'll be engaged too and want to keep reading the story, because we did it in a way that I feel it's like a Pixar movie. It's like Adventure Time, where it's not written just for kids.
Right.
It's written to be enjoyed by everyone, and I think it's one of those books that will surprise adults when they read it to their kids how much they enjoy it as well.
When you're doing stuff like that, just in even all your titles, how do you personally anticipate with the all around product how it's going to be received by people walking by at conventions, or seeing the cover on online, whatever? How do you go about making it sort of attractive for public consumption, or even just a casual convention person or comic book reader?
I'd say largely I don't think about that. I hire someone to help me with that. I have my editor that works with me on all my space between books. Her name is Shannon Lee, and she'll chime in with notes or ideas about things that could make the covers more marketable. Because largely what I do is I do run this business, but I see myself as a pure creative. I don't want to think that much about marketing when I'm creating. So Shannon sort of helps me keep that in mind and have her voice heard and help shape the books in a way that will make them marketable, right? Whereas my goal is to create a book that I would buy, a book that I feel fills a gap in the comics industry that no other book is really filling. And I think that alone makes the books marketable, and how they all have a different look. All the books that I do, I strive for everyone, for my company to have something for everyone, Right. And I think that alone helps the marketing. But Shannon for sure shepherds it in a way toward making sure that they're eye grabbing,
How do you go about sort of balancing, making stuff that you would want to read that you would, think is missing from comic books, opposed to what's marketable? How do you balance that?
I don't think about it really at all. I trust myself that if it's a thing that I would want to read, I know someone else would. Okay. Because I think that I have good taste. I think that I have my finger on the pulse of what readers want. Because the truth is that if one person wants it, multiple people want it. And I grew up loving story. And I think that no matter what, if I tell good stories and if I create compelling characters first and foremost, above plot, above concept, above anything, if readers give it a try, they'll want more.
Right. Going back to the current Kickstarter that you have for Destiny New York short stories, you have far and away been funded. You hit all your stretch goals. Have a lot of things available now. Kind of sort of break down what's available now to anybody who wants to pledge.
We have there are two versions of the book. One has our main cover by Jen St. Ange, who I saw that you actually had an interview with.
Yes.
A while back. That's awesome. Jen is an amazing, amazing artist. And we also have a variant cover by Linda Sejic, who is she is the artist and writer-creator of Bloodstone. She's done a lot of work for Top Cow. She is also such a very unique stylist and amazing artist. And we have a bunch of tie-in rewards. We have a pin every campaign, starting with Volume 3. We're going to have an enamel pin that is one character. So by the end of the series, I plan to do many volumes. You'll have a collection of pins that sort of represents the whole cast.
Okay.
And we have art cards, these kind of cardstock prints that I do. We have a bookmark, a signed book plate, and I just introduced too, because we're sending Volume 1 back to print. I'm doing 2 variant covers for that, where you can get, we have our standard cover, of course, but you can also get a variant by Eliza Romboli, who is now the series artist. She drew Volume 3 and she's drawn Volume 4 now. Or you can get the Virgin variant by Rosie Champy, who drew Volume 2. She is the artist on Spider-Gwen. She has her own comic, Unknown Lands. She drew this beautiful piece that we saw and just really couldn't bear to put any logo or text over, Yeah,
so, I need to get that variant cover after. It's such a beautiful piece. It's such a beautiful and sexy and it's like a lot of emotions in just that one piece. It's amazing.
Yeah, she does. Uh, she does a sensual cover in a way that just feels very natural. And I did for a while when artists would show me cover concepts that had any sexy elements. For a while, I would pull back because I worked at Zenescope for a while too, so I didn't want to have the impression that I was behind those covers and that I was the one who was shepherding Zenescope's image, because they do those TNA covers, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a few of those on my wall at the crib. Mostly from Mike Crone, because I love his work.
Oh no, Chrome is he too is a very incredible artist. His detail is so minute. There's so much going on in all his covers, but they are very, very clear. But at Zenescope, it wasn't that I didn't support that kind of image. What it was that I was overwhelmed that every book that I would do would have a similar cover. It would all be similar. So for a while, I wanted to break from that and just have sort of like no quote unquote sexy covers at all, you know, just to show that I have my own voice and that all my books are going to be different. But Rosie, the covers that she draws and the work that she draws for Destiny New York specifically has such a human and grounded sensual element that when she does these covers, it doesn't feel like what I was worrying that all my work would be seen as being this one thing. Instead, when I look at her covers, I don't see that. I see the characters, and that's what I want in any cover. But she does make a beautiful cover, man.
So, you know, as we close out this interview, is there anything else you want to talk about in regards to the Destiny Kickstarter, or just like the Destiny, series as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say if you're going to try one book by me, this is a great book to try, because you don't need to have read volumes 1, 2, and 3 to enjoy this. You can just start with short stories, dive in and read that. Or if you do want to get the whole picture, we have a bunch of tiers where you can get this plus volumes 1, 2, and 3, or the whole series, and our spin-off Gangster Esperista. You know, I think that this is what I would want to read as a reader. It's a series that each volume is a thick, sprawling epic. You know, I do 200-page volumes at least once per year. I'm going to go on for a long time. So I, as a reader, look for characters I can invest in long term. And these are characters that myself and my company is committed to doing for a long time. You know, we have so far 5 volumes already planned and written out. I plan right now to do 11 volumes. So yeah, I'd say now is a great time to dive in and just fall in love with these characters.
What is it about these characters that you personally love, and how do they resonate with just the general public? You
know, I think that it's a hard question to answer just because there are so many characters and they're all going through their own thing. But I think that no matter who you gravitate toward, there's going to be someone or multiple someones that you're going to see yourself in, just because we have, I'm taking my time with this series. You can really see that the chapters aren't pushed forward that much by plot. It lets the characters breathe. It has a very loose narrative as far as who it follows at what point. And it has what I think is important in character arcs is that build up and that rewarding the reader for their investment and just giving them catharsis and giving them something to care about. And I, in this book, am giving readers exactly what I would want as a reader, and that is a reason to believe in these characters and stories and to feel for them.
Right. And I always like to end my interviews with the same question, and I gave it to you ahead of time to think about it. Who is somebody that you would suggest to that I interview for this podcast that would have some great stories or lessons to talk about?
All right, so I did. I went through your page to see who you've spoken to before. I didn't get to see the whole list, but my idea to start with. Have you spoken to Larry Watts?
No, I haven't.
All right, Larry Watts. He's that guy. He is the artist on Robin Hood, who I was on that book for 4 years. Larry Watts has drawn Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. He is working on some awesome stuff right now that I can't say what it is, but he and I have a new thing together that's going to be probably in preview soon. He is one to check out. He is someone who I want to hear more from myself verbally. He always has me on the phone, so I want him to sort of get his voice out there as well. He's great. So I very much would say Larry Watts is that guy.
Okay, great. Yeah, good suggestion. Before we get out of here, where can people go online to get more information about what you're up to and anything? Just, go ahead and plug away.
All right. You can at me on Twitter. It's at Pat Shand. It's pretty much Pat Shand everywhere. My company is Space Between Entertainment. We're on Twitter, Facebook. We have a YouTube channel where we post a weekly podcast. We do reaction videos. I'm thinking maybe I'll start to do some Pokemon Go content there too. But I do hesitate to turn my hobbies into jobs because that's sort of what got me here, and yeah, man, just I'm Pat Shannon pretty much everywhere. So if you can't find me, you're not doing it right.
So that was my interview with comic book writer, author, and content creator Pat Shand. It was great talking with him. Go right now to check out the Kickstarter for Destiny New York short stories. The link for that, along with other links to follow Pat Shand, will be in the show notes for this episode at freshasthepodcast.com. And before we get out of here, I definitely want to remind you of a few ways you can follow Fresh as the Word and support the podcast. Fresh as the Word is streaming pretty much anywhere that podcasts are streamed, most notably Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Google Play. And if you want to follow me and Fresh as the Word online, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at KFreshAsTheWord and at Facebook at facebook.com/KFresh. And then we also have a Facebook group. If you go to facebook.com/groups/FreshAsTheWord, you can join the Fresh as the Word Facebook group. There's a lot of good discussions going on. That's where I post most of my, good pop culture stuff on Facebook. We have a lot, we have a lot of great sort of creators and artists and whatnot from all aspects of pop culture that are, contributing to the group. So you might be able to meet someone who you'd never meet before, and maybe you can collaborate a little bit. So once again, go to facebook.com/groups/FreshAsTheWord to join the Fresh as the Word Facebook group. And you can also follow Fresh as the Word on Twitter at Fresh as the Word, and that's is with an IZ. Instagram at Fresh as the Word Podcast. And on Facebook, there's a Facebook page, facebook.com/Fresh as the Podcast. And also, if you want to support the podcast, I'm on Patreon now at patreon.com/Fresh as the Word. And for as little as $1, you can help out the Fresh as the Word podcast and everything that I'm trying to do. Shout out to the few subscribers that I have thus far. I already have a lot of good content on there. The coolest content that I'm putting up there is for the $3 a month tier, which you will get the Patreon-only exclusive podcast episodes where I dig deep into my audio archives for interviews that I've done outside the Fresh as the Word podcast for the past decade or so for other publications. Some I may have never even released or written about, but it's the full audio for all these different, mostly musical artists that I've interviewed. So there's a lot of good stuff up there already. I have 2 episodes dedicated to Jay Dilla's mom, Ma Dukes. I have an old Danny Brown interview, an old Black Milk, Chuck Billy from Testament. It's a lot of cool stuff, and I got like a treasure trove of other audio that I'll eventually be posting up. I'm trying to do at least 4 or 5 episodes a month on Patreon. I still haven't posted anything for this month, but I'll do that probably in the next week. I just kind of drop them all at the same time. So go to patreon.com/freshastheword and check out all the tiers that you can support Fresh as the Word, and help out if you can. Any dollar, any dollar counts. So that's about it for this episode of Fresh as the Word. Thank you for everyone who's listening, sharing, downloading, streaming, saying anything, helping out in any way with this podcast. Just keep doing it. If you have any questions or concerns or anything you want to pitch, you can always email me at djkfresh@gmail.com. And remember, go out there and live life with intensity with a capital 10. Thank you for listening. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.